Good morning, everybody. Rise and shine. Ready or not, let's do this. This is a ridiculously early morning webinar to get your day started off right, whether you're ready for it or not. There's a little bit of mindset, a little bit of business sense, something to get your MLM, network marketing, small business, brick and mortar, online or off, up and running like a well-oiled machine. Whether you are a newbie, a seasoned veteran, or somewhere in between, there's something here for you. Welcome, my name is Mina. I'm coming to you from snowy New York City out in the borough of Queens. How are you doing today? I created this webinar to push myself out of my comfort zone and to share with you my experiences as I build my business online. Let's grow into success together. How are you doing today? If you are one of my fellow Northeasters, I hope you're safe and sound and you're warm in your home from the snow. Fortunately, we didn't get as much snow as predicted. We got about a foot of snow, which is not bad. They just lifted I think they had a curfew last night where they didn't want to see any cars driving at 11 p.m. Otherwise, they would get a really big, hefty ticket. So nobody was out on the streets at 11 p.m., save the snowblowers. Today, this morning, they just lifted the curfew, so now people can go out and drive their cars and shovel themselves out of the snow. But it seems to be okay. I think we New Yorkers are a pretty hefty lot. We can weather the storm pretty well. So I hope everybody else is doing really well during these snowstormy times. But for today, this webinar has two phases. There's a mindset moment where we talk about mindset, and then we also have a business sense moment where I will share some tips that you can apply to your business. And the content that I share on these webinars is usually inspired by John C. Maxwell and sites like Forbes.com, Entrepreneur.com, Fast Company. I find these amazing things online that I want to share with you, and it is applicable to your business. So for today, I'm calling today Tuesday, Tackle This Tuesday, and I'm going to share with you two things that we can tackle and overcome in order to become better leaders and keep putting into our business to grow up online. So for the mindset moment on Tackle This Tuesday, I'm going to talk about communication. And this part of the webinar is inspired by John C. Maxwell's blog post called Avoiding Airtime. And I'm going to start off with a story. Before you can watch baseball on TV, it was telegraphed via radio. So how this actually worked was they had a person on site watching the baseball game, and that person would telegraph via Morse code what was going on play-by-play of the baseball game. And so this went back over to the radio station, to the broadcaster, to the person who would be reading the Morse code, and then he would be relaying this to the broadcaster, and the broadcaster would be announcing what was happening during the game. So it happened that there was this one young broadcaster who got into a really sticky situation because the telegraph failed mid-game. While it was a game between the Chicago Cubs and the St. Louis Cardinals, and the telegraph failed. So this young broadcaster was not receiving the play-by-play live. So he knew that because radio stations competed for audience, for listening time, market shares, they called it market shares of the audience. And of course, when there's dead air time, listeners are going to move over and switch over to another radio station. And it was important to the radio stations to get as many listeners as possible. So for this young broadcaster who was in this sticky situation with a failed telegraph line, he decided he was going to improvise. And he got really, really creative. He started to tell a story about the batter hitting a foul ball and after foul ball. And he talked about how the foul ball went into this empty space about a foot outside of the field. And then he talked about another foul ball that went into the stands and two boys getting into a tussle over who was going to keep the foul ball. So he got very creative and really creative about, broadcasting the baseball game. But it came to a point where he was starting to sweat because he knew he would soon have to come clean about him ad-libbing and improvising. But at that point, before he was going to do that, the telegraph line came back to life, and he was able to resume his broadcasting the play-by-play, the actual baseball game. So that was very creative on his part, very creative, it was creative communication on his part. And who was this young broadcaster? This young broadcaster was Ronald Reagan, who later became one of the presidents of the United States. And Ronald Reagan was a very good communicator. He was able to engage his audiences so well that he was nicknamed the Great Communicator. So the mindset moment of this webinar is all about communication. And there are 4 points that you can keep in mind to be a clearly effective communicator. But before we do that, before we go over those 4 points, I want you to say this out loud to yourself. Because remember, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And whatever comes out of your mouth goes into your 2 ears and feeds your brain. And you repeat this to yourself over and over again, and then you start to live it. So you say this to yourself every chance you can today on Tackle This Tuesday. I am a clear and effective communicator. You can say that again. You can say it right out loud. If you're watching the replay, say this to yourself out loud. I am a clear and effective communicator. And you can watch this replay over and over again. So you can say this line to yourself over and over again. So then you start to believe it, that you are a clear and effective communicator. So here are 4 steps to keep the communication going and keep your people engaged and interested. And the first thing is to be creative. Ronald Reagan was very creative when he faced that sticky situation, that little challenge with his telegraph going dead. It could be, you could be giving a webinar, or you can be giving a speech, and for one moment you got distracted and you momentarily forgot your lines, or perhaps your index cards that you were using to refer to fell to the floor. So be creative. Think about something that you could do, or you can tell a funny story, and just be creative to fill in that space, to keep your audience engaged. You can tell a funny story. I can tell you the last time when my business card or when my index cards fell to the floor, the wind blew them out the window. I don't know, but be creative in telling a story. People love stories. And that is number 2, to be effective communicators, to tell stories. When you put your narrative in a story form, like I just told you right now, it's very engaging. It keeps people interested. If you're just merely disseminating information, if you're just giving information and you're just repeating it, that can put people to sleep. But if you take the information and you put it in a story format, you're going to keep people really engaged. Let's say, what if I told you this great story during this snowstorm where a person was just driving home and he encountered traffic, and there was a taxi cab right in front of him that was just stopped in the middle of the road and could not move. And the lights were blinking, and all of a sudden the taxi cab driver came out, and he was waving his hands and he was screaming. And then the driver got out of his car and went to the taxi cab and saw in the back seat of the taxi cab was a woman who was pregnant and was about to deliver the baby. Now that makes for an exciting story in the middle of a storm. And while this has happened before in snowstorms, it's still a great story to share, of a great story. And then the driver and the taxi cab driver helped deliver the baby into the world, and everybody lived happily ever after. So that's just a story that you can talk about and keep people engaged. It's just an example to tell stories. You as a leader, you're not only a disseminator of information, when you package it into a story, you keep your listeners engaged, and they are more apt to follow you because they like the stories that you are telling. How about, say you had to give a webinar this morning and you had it at a certain time, but you woke up late and you missed your webinar. But what do? Do you just feel defeated and not do the webinar? No, you do the webinar, you create a new one, and you do a new webinar, and you can create a funny story about waking up late. Yeah, I woke up late because the night before I was out playing in the snow, and I built this enormous snowman, and all of a sudden the snowplow careened out of control, and my imagination is running away from me. But you get the gist of telling stories to keep your audience engaged. Number three, to be a clearly effective communicator is to give frequent updates. So whether you are in corporate and you're the leader of an organization, giving your team members or your employees frequent updates on how they're doing and what they can do better, and what's going on in the company culture is going to keep them feeling included. Because if you're not keeping your employees updated, they're going to feel stonewalled and neglected, and they're going to lose motivation to work altogether. The same applies as you're a leader of your own home business and people are joining your team. You got to keep them updated of new things, of new trainings, of things they can apply to grow their own businesses online, and also how they're doing, how you can coach them. And keeping people in the loop and giving frequent updates is one of the assets of being a clearly effective communicator. So that's number three. And number four, do not be afraid of repetition. Repetition is really essential. I do like repetition to remember things. A lot of leaders, because they want to go forward and charge, they sometimes forget to repeat their vision for their followers, for their team, because there's always turnover. Your organization is not going to have the same people today or even tomorrow. There will always be a turnover, and you will always have newcomers coming to your business or newcomers joining your team. So you got to repeat the vision. And every now and then get together and repeat the vision of your organization, of your business, so that you can keep people inspired and motivated to keep working towards that dream. So those are the four things that you need to keep in mind to be a clearly effective communicator, which is to be creative, to tell stories, to give frequent updates, and to not be afraid of repetition. So that is the business sense moment of this hangout. And now the business sense moment to tackle for this webinar to become a more clearly and effective communicator. And now we're going to move into the mindset moment of this webinar. What can we we're going to, I just reversed everything. The first part was the mindset moment of the webinar of being a more clearly effective communicator. And what mindset is involved with that? Well, pouring into yourself from great leaders like John C. Maxwell, and knowing that you are a clearly effective communicator so that you can put these tips into place. But now we're moving over into the business sense moment of this webinar, which is what can you tackle to improve your business? And the business sense moment here will be waking up earlier. What are the benefits of waking up earlier? Well, if you wake up earlier before anybody else, you have that space of time where you can do pretty much anything, where you can be creative without being disturbed, or you can get in some exercise, or you can get in some private time, some meditation, so that you can start off your day right. So for a lot of people, myself included, it's difficult to wake up really early. But there is a process to waking up early. It just can't be, you can't go to bed 3 a.m. in the morning and expect to wake up at 5, bright and early and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. There is a process, which I'm going to share with you right now. And this is inspired by the article by lifehack.org that it's entitled, I Wish I Knew These 15 Tricks to Waking Up Earlier. There's a lot of tips here. I'm only going to share 5 with you today and leave the link below in the description so that you can explore the others. And these 5 are the first one is to plan your schedule to give you enough time to sleep. There are people who like to use Google Docs or use Google Calendar. And one person I watched who uses Google Calendar says you got to put in your set things that you do every single day first. And that includes sleep. So you're going to put in the amount of hours you need to sleep, enough time for you to wake up so that you're awake enough to start off your day and you're not hitting the snooze button too many times. So you should schedule in your sleep time. And the article itself, let me check my notes here. The article itself says that the average adult needs a minimum of 7 hours and up to 9 hours of sleep every night. Well, that depends on every single person. Each person has a different amount of time they need to rest. But what the article emphasizes is the first trick to waking up earlier is to make sure you get enough rest every night without stressing over the clock or feeling tired the next day. So what they give us an example. If you want to wake up at 6 in the morning, your bedtime should be no later than 10:30. So they're putting in the 7 hours max because it takes an average of 10 to 20 minutes to fall asleep. And you need to also factor in time for pre-bed routines as well. So there always is a pre-bed routine, something that you do to wind down. Perhaps if you're going to go to bed at 10:30 p.m., you should power down your electronics, turn off your computer by 9:30 a.m. so that you could have your bedtime routine so that you can fall asleep and have enough hours to wake up the next day. So that is the first thing you should do in order to get to wake up earlier during the day, is to plan your schedule to allow adequate time for sleep. The next tip is to gradually adjust your bedtime. So that is to move your bedtime. If you're used to going to bed at 1 in the morning, you have to gradually adjust it. Because if you decide to go to bed the next day at 10:30 p.m., perhaps your body's still used to going to bed at 1 a.m. So you got to gradually adjust your bedtime schedule. And this article suggests in 15-minute increments. So that is to reduce shock to your system and daytime fatigue. So they say give yourself 4 days to make the transition. So if you're used to going to bed at 1 a.m., give yourself 4 days to transition into the 10:30 p.m. schedule. So you can go to bed 15 minutes earlier before 1 a.m. and then the next day until you reach the 10:30 a.m. the 10:30 p.m. schedule. There are many different ways where people do this to transition into it, but gradually adjust your bedtime so you're not shocking yourself into the earlier bedtime schedule. The third step is to optimize your bed. The third thing I'm sharing with you is to optimize your bedroom for more effective sleep. And a lot of people say is to not put your electronics in your bedroom. Don't put your iPad or your computer. Don't take them to bed with you, because the lighting from the computer and your electronics activates something in your brain and makes it harder for you to fall asleep. So it's better to power down everything and leave them aside and leave them outside. Or if you use your smartphone as your alarm clock, move your smartphone. Well, that is another step. Move it further away from you. But optimize your bedroom so that you fall asleep fast. Instead of having electronics by your bedside, have a good book or an article or something that can help you go to bed sooner or fall asleep sooner. So optimize your bedroom for more efficient sleep. Make sure your bed is comfy, you have your favorite pillow, you're in your favorite pajamas, so that you can fall asleep and have a good night's sleep. Have a glass of water by your bed. It's good to drink some water before you fall asleep, and also to drink some water when you wake up, because water is pretty good at keeping you hydrated. The fourth tip that I'm going to share with you from this article is to booby trap your alarm clock. And what do they mean by that? Don't have your alarm clock right next to you if you're used to hitting the snooze button. Move your alarm clock across the room, or maybe even in the bathroom, so that when you hear it and you have this ridiculous sound that you're forced to get out of bed to turn it off. If you have it in the other room, the bathroom happens to be very close to our bedroom. If you put the alarm clock in the bathroom and you go in there to turn it off, you are pretty much forced to just use the bathroom and just start your day. Splash some cold water on your face so that you can start your day off right and early. So booby trap your alarm clock. Don't put it right next to you where the temptation is to hit snooze and turn over and sleep through your alarm. And the fifth tip I'm going to share with you today in this Business Sense moment on Tackle This Tuesday is to turbocharge your morning routine. And how can you do that? Instead of reaching for the coffee cup, drink a glass of water, a full glass of water. Or a lot of people swear by warm water with lemon, which is I do. This is my warm water with lemon. and then I'll have a shake afterwards. This article says, start your morning with a big glass of cold water. That's going to wake you up. Or warm water with lemon. And it also says, expose yourself to natural sunlight as soon as possible to support your natural wakefulness rhythms. So if the window's right by you, this morning I just lifted up the blinds and I saw the snow out there and say, oh, it doesn't look too bad. My home office is right in front of the window, so I can look outside and see the snow. And on the trees, it looks pretty nice. So, well, it does also say here, if you are a coffee drinker, put the pot on and enjoy the aroma. I love the smell of coffee, and I'm sure everybody does love the smell of coffee. And they say other good wake-up scents include orange, lemon, rosemary, and mint. And another thing to turbocharge your morning routine is to do some exercise, some jumping jacks, some jump rope, something to just wake you up, like yoga, and also to have a healthy breakfast to support your metabolism and just get you up and running. So those are 5 tips from this great article I'm sharing with you today on Tackle This Tuesday to help you ease into waking up earlier, and that is to plan your schedule, to give yourself enough sleep, to gradually adjust your bedtime when you go to sleep in 15-minute increments, to make sure your bedroom is an optimal place to fall asleep and get a restful night's sleep, to booby trap your alarm clock, and to turbocharge your morning routine. So you're looking forward to getting up earlier each and every day. It could be also to add to turbocharge your morning routine is have your favorite cereal in your cupboard. So you're looking forward to that in the morning, or having your favorite smoothie protein shake in the cupboard. So you're looking forward to having your protein shake. So that's all for today, Tuesday morning on this Rise and Shine, Ready or Not, Let's Do This. I want to thank you for stopping by and watching this replay. If you're watching the replay or if you're watching right now live, thank you for stopping by. If you enjoyed the content I shared with you today, please feel free to share it with a friend or two and leave a comment below and let me know how you're doing today, how you're faring out in this snowy weather. Or if you're in a sunny location, let me know that as well. My name is Mina. I'm coming to you from New York City, out in the borough of Queens. I'll see you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Have a happy Tuesday, folks. Take care. Cheers. Bye.